All right, guys, welcome. I'd like to introduce you to Intellistem.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming to the presentation of Intellistem. What I'm going to present today is a summary. And if you need any more information, I'm always available. I'm available after the presentation. And if you give me your business card, I can provide you more information on email. So I'd like to thank Planet MicroCap for giving me the opportunity to do one of my favorite things, is to tell the story of Intellistem and what we have planned for the future. This presentation would not be possible without the brilliant work of my partners. Riam Shanach is in the back. He's a founder of the company, along with myself. Martin Wilhelm is our chief medical officer and has done most of the studies, the clinical studies that will be described in my presentation. Martin is probably the most experienced researcher using cell therapy for oncology. So let me give you an idea about Intellistem. Intellistem was formed to provide cancer patients, special kind of cancer patients, one that have treatment-resistant cancers. They don't respond to any conventional therapies. And to provide them an opportunity for complete remission. So we do this by using our proprietary SSC gamma delta cells in conjunction with standard antibody treatment. To date, we have treated 41 patients, and with each cohort of these patients, we have experienced higher rates of remission. We haven't seen a significant adverse event for any of these patients as well. The technology is a response to a problem. First generation cell therapy, CAR T cell therapy, has, like any first generation, a ways to go. This solves many of the problems, and we'll go through that in the slide presentation. And it's applicable to a wide variety of cancers and works in conjunction with a variety of antibodies, which is an important part of our business strategy. So let's bring it to the patient level for a second. So here's a patient has Richter's transformation. This is a very aggressive lymphoma that's treatment resistant. It's a fatal cancer for most people. We treat it with our proprietary, ready-to-use cells, along with leaving them on antibody treatment. The results was a complete remission, as confirmed by CT studies and histological work. We published this, and we can say that we're the first group ever to report a complete remission for a Richter's transformation patient who's reported in the literature. Let's delve a little deeper into our cell technology. So we have allogeneic cells. They're gamma delta cells made in a specific way, and they have the title of SSC cells. These cells, as opposed to other forms of cell therapy, are ready to use by the clinician at any point. So these cells work with antibodies. They actually enhance the performance of antibodies. They also kill cancer cells, and they facilitate other cells to engage in the killing of the cancer cells. So it's a multi-pronged approach to battling cancer. So the major asset of any biotech firm is its IP, its patents. And we've taken a very aggressive approach towards patenting because it's the value of our company. And we plan to continue that work of aggressive patenting. We've patented the process by which we make these cells, how we activate these cells against certain antigens, and how we use them clinically. So if you look at the Intellistem opportunity, it should be put in the context of historically, drug candidates that have been used in compassionate care have a high rate of FDA approval because it's logical. We have so much experience with the cells that when we go in to, like we will, in 2025 to our registration trial on, again, treatment-resistant lymphomas, we'll have a lot of information to inform that trial design, and we know it's basically a repeat of what we've done in compassionate use. A positive result on a phase 1/2 trial for a company in the cell therapy space can drive valuations to approach $100 million. It's a pivotal event and can activate other forms of partnering. The technology platform is applicable to a variety of cancers, but also a wide variety of antibodies that we can enhance their performance. Oops. It's that synergy with antibodies that are owned by major pharmaceutical companies that will drive our business plan of doing licensing and partnering with big pharma. That will be a source of non-dilutive funding for the company and a great deal of support to ensure our products are presented to the patient as fast as possible. So if you look at our pipeline, we have the lymphoma trial that is scheduled for 2025. We are getting trial ready. We have done 3 pre-production runs of our cells. We can produce them to sufficient volume to be scalable, and we have the method down. So that's a big part of being ready for a clinical trial. We've submitted our work to begin our IND that we will have complete, hopefully, by the end of the year, and approved, and we'll start the trial in 2025. It's going to be a phase 1/2 trial. It can range between 9 patients and 18 patients. Following that, we're going to go after small cell lung cancer, a big indication. And there's antibodies that work with our cells, and it's a cell that's very close to other work. That's a type of cancer very close to a lymphoma in performance. Then looking at colon cancer, and then following that with breast cancer. Now, as I mentioned, we are a solution to a problem. Now, the first generation of cell therapy that's widely used now is CAR T cell therapy. And to do a CAR T therapy, you bring the patient in, you extract their blood, you separate out their immune cells, you send it to a lab, they genetically engineer it, grow it, and then return it to the clinic for it to be reinfused into the patient. This whole process takes about 14 days. If you have an aggressive cancer, 14 days can be a long time. And on top of it, it's expensive. You can imagine all this process and all this work. The current cost for CAR T therapy is about $485,000 a dose. By contrast, our cells are made in mass. They're not specific for each patient. We estimate we can provide the recommended 3 doses of our cells for $120,000 a treatment. That's well within insurance reimbursement guidelines as well as Medicare reimbursement. So besides that, our cells in 41 patients didn't display any adverse events, negligible side effects. CAR T therapy often requires hospitalization for the side effects or reports back to the emergency room. And like I say, our cells are ready to use. You have to go through this whole process. If a patient needs it, they're frozen in the freezer. They take them out, they thaw them, they put them into the patient. Now, cancer is a very large marketplace. I don't think that's news to anybody. 1 out of every 2 people will experience cancer in their lifetime. It's a sad fact. Cancer is the second leading cause of death, and the cost to society is tremendous. Big Pharma has responded to this, where more and more big pharma companies are reporting 50% of their revenues from the oncology space, which again is another driving factor towards their business model of pharma partnering. The cell therapy market is expected to grow to about $88 billion by 2032. The growth is really a function of companies like ours, who are providing cell therapy at a reasonable cost under a convenient clinical protocol that physicians like, and the reduction of side effects, which means more patients, particularly elderly patients, can qualify for it. So the cell therapy space is a space that has high valuations. And I mentioned that, the valuations before, but it's not uncommon to see these cell therapy companies valued at over $1 billion. So our short-term capital needs, which we have a private placement to fund, is $6 million. That will be used primarily for the clinical trial, and with the idea of getting a base under the company so that we can be ready for when the public markets open and we can do an IPO in the future. If our short-term goals are by the end of the year to be trial ready and to get approval on the IND and do the lymphoma trial, phase 1/2 in 2025, and then commence the cancer trial in 2026. So to kind of summarize this, we are unique for an early stage biotech. We don't have mice studies. We have actual in-human studies. We've treated 41 patients to date per compassionate care studies. Historically, drug candidates that have been used in compassionate use studies, especially extensive use, such as ours, gain FDA approval. The 2025 trial is a pivotal event for the company. It will catapult our pharma partnering, catapult valuations, and our ability to raise capital, and allow us to proceed with pharma partnering and more clinical trials. So that kind of sums it up. I'm available to answer any questions right now or afterwards, or start a long-term conversation. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Okay, that patient, he had complete remission for 5 months. However, and we were treating a CD20 antigen cancer. In 5 months, that patient developed a whole different kind of cancer than we were treating and died from that cancer. So we don't have any long-term, we hope to, but I guess he was destined to have cancer. Yes. Well, there's one article on it in the Journal of Rare Diseases, and they estimate it's about 80%. So it's a very high percentage of drug candidates relative to overall. You're talking, 15%. So this is a high number. Yes. Okay, well, that's a good question. Why aren't more companies doing compassionate use? Part of it is they're U.S. based, and they're doing all their work in the U.S. Compassionate use isn't near as much as where we did this compassionate use study, which is in Germany, which is very receptive to compassionate use studies. And our chief medical officer was head of hematology at the University of Nuremberg. So we had all that going for us. And the interesting thing from a capital standpoint, all that work was free for us. No expenditures because of universal health care there, as well as it being under the university. So that was very helpful. Yes. It's going to be in the U.S. It's going to be in the U.S. Yeah. Yes. Oh, as far as the question is, how does our treatment compare in toxicity to CAR T? We experience no significant adverse events. The only common side effect is fever, which is treatable. So we really didn't experience any events. With CAR T, events are frequent, and they sometimes require hospitalization and trips to the ER. There's also a danger of real adverse side effects, like cytokine storms and things like that will kill a patient. So there's a risk there as well. Yes. Well, one thing is we understood right at the beginning that anything we did in rodents would not be applicable to humans. We were introducing a different type of cell into the rodent, and generally rodent trials in oncology can be successful, but oftentimes they're not in the translation into the clinic. We were fortunate in that we had a clinician as our chief medical officer, and Martin Wilhelm, and these were patients that had in the German laws allowed compassionate use. These are patients that absolutely had no alternative. The other significant thing of treating these 41 patients, these weren't great patients you'd select for a clinical trial if you had your choice. These were patients at the end of the line, and they had been going through cancer patient and cancer patient, so they were pretty shot, and they're the heroes of this whole presentation because they took this on as an experimental therapy. So they're the real heroes of the story. Yes. We're going to continue to do some research in Germany, but not clinical work. Just the market, it turns out easier to do a compassionate use here or in Germany, but it's easier to do a clinical trial here in the U.S. Partly because the U.S. is so big by comparison, you have access to patients, and which is a big factor on maintaining your business plan. I've been doing biotechnology for 35 years, and mostly as being a CEO. And part of maintaining your plan and following through for your investors is finding patients so you can conduct the trials to plan, and we can deliver the results to you. So there's just not enough patients there. It is the answer. Well, I've run public companies before. They've done well. Knock on wood. And there's something about, and I have to say, when you run a public company, it does elevate you as a business person in a big way. You thought you were pretty good at business, but the accountability, the reporting, everything like that ups your game a lot. Any more questions? Yes. No, they're continuing a lot of their treatments. Right. Well, the one they're continuing, remember, these are treatment-resistant cancers. They've gone through chemotherapy. The next type of therapy they're getting is antibody treatment. And it so happens that we can enhance that antibody treatment. I think one of that antibody treatment they're remaining on. And so they can remain on their antibody treatment, and they'll probably, where they weren't responsive, at least to what we're seeing in patients, patients that aren't responsive to the antibodies are once we put ourselves in. And over the last few years, we understand that mechanism, what's going on there. Yes. Just for it's like a dose. Yeah, it's just the bags of doses. Yeah. Any more? Well, thank you all.